Viva Chile, viva Chile, a Chile quiero, chileno yo soy.
Iquique, Chile, the 10th of May, 2014, high atop a apartment building overlooking this part of town, the airport way down south there. Can't even see it from here. We are looking south, now west. City of Iquique, 10th of May, 2014. On the side of the hill you see the road going to AllAboutChile. And the view from apartments can be rented long term for $700 a month. Your host, Dr. John Coben again. Sorry, I mentioned in the introduction that you probably see behind me this city of Iquique, the beautiful view we have of the Pacific Ocean. And it dawned on me that if you're listening on the radio only, you're not going to see anything. What I'm referring to is those who are watching today on YouTube, because yeah, on YouTube you're going to be able to see this expansive beach behind me and the ocean. Iquique is really something else when you're up high, because you can see the Pacific Ocean just endlessly every day, except some days have some fog rolls in, but in general it burns off like it is now. Beautiful blue sky with high clouds and just an endless Pacific Ocean backed up against some sand dunes that must be, I don't know, 1,000 to 1,500 meters, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 feet high, where they actually do paragliding. They jump off these things regularly with these little things and float down to the ocean or the beach with them. It's quite an interesting spectacle. There's also a lot of surfing that goes on here. It's a city full of tourist attractions like that for people that like the great outdoors. Iquique is an interesting city for people that are interested in coming to Chile. It's not a completely developed city. It's you have a mixture of first world and second world, I guess you might say, in the city itself. It's got a history from when it used to be part of Peru, and it was such a big part of the mine, the salitre mining, which is saltpeter, used in making gunpowder before the Germans learned to synthesize it in the 1930s. So it has a history of being part of Peru before that, until the War of the Pacific, and producing the saltpeter. And even when Chile took it over after they beat Peru in the war in 1883, it continued to be very prosperous for that, as well as iodine. Big tourist attraction is this World Heritage Site called Hammerstone up the hill a ways. Drive all the way up the hill behind me there, and you see it a ways. Hammerstone, it's a World Heritage Site. It's something fascinating to see about just what went on here about 100 years ago. At any rate, Iquique is a place that you might consider living if you're an expatriate. Who would want to live in Iquique? Well, the people that want to live in Iquique love the climate. This is a place where you can go and have, in Fahrenheit, 55 to 85 degrees all year round. And most of the time it's in the 60s and 70s. The heat is very intense because we're technically tropical, although there's no rain here. In fact, there's no life here unless it's imported. There's no plant life, there are no animals in the Atacama Desert at all, at least in this section. And the rainfall happens once every 500 years. So if you don't mind dry climate and you want to have perfect weather all year round, Iquique is a place to come. So this is a legitimate spot for an expatriate to be if you're interested in living in Chile. Hang on just a second, we need to take a pause here just a second, because we have somebody who's intruded right in front of the camera. Take a look at the camera there. Glad you joined us here, Bert. This is our special host today, who's giving us letting us use his apartment. Bert, welcome to the Red Hot Chile Show. How do you like living in Chile, especially up here in Iquique? Bert,
it's beautiful.
Face the microphone when you're talking so people can hear you. Okay. Right over here.
Okay.
Yeah, just come right back there. There you go.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the humidity in my apartment here, which is where we're transmitting from, is at 57%. One side we got the Pacific Ocean, the other side the Atacama Desert. And we do get rain about once every 5 years, but we try not to let it slow us down.
Why did you choose Iquique? What was the reason you decided Iquique was a place for you?
Well, it's got the best weather in the world. I used to be a Marine Corps infantry officer, and I lived in Southern California, and this beats that. We have a high, probably the hottest it ever gets during the whole year is about 82. So it's a perfect place to live, and I'm a sea kayaker, and the ocean, is you can see out the window, is just something to die for. The vista, the sunsets are just awesome. But it is the perfect climate of anywhere in the world. The water temperature is in the winter it's 59 degrees, in the summer it's 69, so it's a little chilly. But what we have here is the Peruvian/Humboldt current, and that is comes up from the south. So not only do we have the perfect weather, because that brings the cooling waters up from the Arctic, but the wind is constantly from the south and the west. So if you're worried about Fukushima radiation, and a lot of people are, this is the safest place in the world, because again, the climate, or all the currents in the southern hemisphere stay in the southern hemisphere. Fukushima radiation pretty much stays in the northern hemisphere. And Chile is probably the safest place in the world as far as that's concerned. So
We definitely agree on that. Bert, if you want to come back in a little bit and make a few more comments, feel free to do so. I've got a couple minutes left in this segment, and I need to jump back here and make a few comments. Appreciate your input there, and excellent observations. You know, Iquique is also a tax-free zone, which means that if you just shop in the tax-free mall here, you don't pay any value-added tax, you don't have any tariffs, and it's a great place to import-export, especially if you're working with the Bolivians and the Paraguayans just directly to the east here. So, as far as business opportunities go, Iquique has a lot, and if you are able to, if you've got some money and you're trying to minimize tax on your wealth, you can do it quite well here. In fact, my calculations, a person who's prudent and structures himself well in Chile can actually have less than a 2% tax burden as soon as he expatriates from his old north of the Tropic of Cancer country and comes here. He's going to be able to do really well. You have something else to add?
I haven't decided to do that yet.
Yeah, you haven't decided to do that part yet. Okay, he said, well, he will shortly, I'm sure, as soon as he can. What good is it to have an American passport these days, folks? All it does is give you more tax liability, makes it harder to open a bank account, and makes you a target for people in the world that don't like warmongers. Well, at any rate, Iquique is an option for some people. It's a long ways away, and it's certainly something that should be considered by people who are either interested in business again, want to minimize taxes, or just like great climate. It's hard to find people here, however, that speak English. And so if you're not used to speaking Spanish, you may have a little bit more of a transition, or do the wonderful thing that Bert did and just find a Chilean wife that happens to be bilingual, and then take care of all your problems for you. So you can live up in Iquique or anywhere else you want in the country. All right, well, on the show today, we have some more things to talk about besides just Iquique. Shortly, I'll be having Richard Chaptini come on the show. He's been a longtime resident of Iquique, and now he's living down in the 4th region in the city of Vicuña, not too far from La Serena. So we want to give you yet the experience of another desert community, because the desert is a big draw for some people, as I've said before. I also want to talk about some other current events that are going on in the country. We have some issues about air pollution that have come up, the issue of women and their roles. The traditional roles have been big in the press here the last week or so. So some interesting topics socially on the show today coming up. And remember, check out escapeamericanow.info. Order the books there about life in Chile and expatriates to Chile. In addition to that, make sure you keep current on your Chile knowledge, because if you're going to move here, you should acquire as much knowledge as you possibly can before you get here. It only makes a lot of sense, folks. It's a big move, a big costly venture. You are listening to Red Hot Chili on the Overseas Radio Network. We'll be back in just a minute.